One of the elements that you talk about in the book when it comes to being inwardly sound that really, really stood out to me is that the inwardly sound leader is secured and settled. Now, how does someone who can honestly assess themselves as not these things, not
Hmm.
secure and settled, or one or the other, maybe they feel secure but they're not
Yeah.
settled, how do they become more secure and settled? Like, what does it take to get to that point?
Yeah. So if I could, I want to dig into those two words just a little bit and then we'll get to the answer to your question. So secure, the word that many of us are familiar with that we hear more often is insecure. What does it mean to be insecure? It means somebody who's not comfortable in their own skin. It's often somebody who needs a lot of external validation of some sort or another. They usually have trouble going against the grain when they have to because there's a paranoia of some kind or another that causes me to feel like I'm not secure in myself. Settled, so that's a little bit more of my relationship with me. Settled has a little bit more to do with my relationship with the outside world. That is to say, am I relatively calm and centered about the fact that any number of things might happen out there over the next 12 to 18 months to 5 years to 10 years? And how do I think I'm going to fare given all those unknowns and challenges, whatever comes at me? And so, secure is about me being okay with myself. Settled is primarily about me being okay with whatever might come at me. And when you combine those two things, you can see how that would be such a pillar in this idea of being inwardly sound. So, coming back to your question, how do we work on that stuff? Well, let me just say out of the gate, there's no pill, there's no microwave oven to do this. This is hard work that almost always takes a meaningful amount of time. Because even when we do get some external validation that pops us up once in a while, that external validation usually leads to the need for additional external validation. It's not like somebody said, "Hey, you've done a great job," and that carries you for the next couple of decades. It doesn't work that way. So the validation is something that plays into our security, but it's never enough. And so, how can we work on these things? One of the key things we talk about in growing and becoming more secure and settled is how do we find the things that are unchangeable? How do we find the things that we can lean into that inform us about ourselves and inform us about that outside world that's coming at us that are unchangeable? And how do I make sure that I've got enough moorings into those unchangeable things so that when the challenges of life and leadership come at me, that I'm not so easily knocked off. And so there are methodologies, things you can walk through. Um, a very simple idea is, and this is again, like this is, I wish I could say here comes the rocket science, but this is not rocket science, although it is difficult. One of the things we talk about with people around being secure and settled is oftentimes being in a deep quality relationship with somebody who brings no judgment towards you is a secure and settling place to be. We call that JFR, judgment free relationship. And I say to everybody, do you have a relationship in your life that's judgment free? Somebody that you could say anything to about what you're thinking or wrestling with. And it doesn't mean that they would necessarily agree with you, but they wouldn't lean into you with judgment, because judgment leads us back into that insecure place. If people are judging me all the time and I'm not yet settled in myself, then that can be a challenge. So we've got 11 different practices that we talk with people about how to become more secure and settled. Judgment-free relationships. JFR is one example of something to say, do I have a regular, I won't miss it, this is going to be a part of my life interaction in a judgment-free relationship? That is something that over time can help ground us to be more secure and settled leaders. I'll wrap up this monologue, and thanks for bearing with me here. Obviously, I get a little fired up about it. But my colleague and friend John Ott coined a phrase as we were working on secure and settled together that's better than anything that I could say. So I just repeat what he says. And he says that when you're secure and settled as a leader, you can accurately say, I'm okay, and come what may, I'm okay. That's the goal. That's where we're heading when we're trying to work to become more secure and settled, to be able to say, I'm okay, and come what may, I'm okay. And I think, I hope, I believe that anybody listening would be able to say, gosh, if that was true of me, I'd be a more effective leader. I can see where I would be a better leader. I wouldn't be distracted by what's everybody thinking about me, or am I going to get the next raise or the next promotion. I'm actually just settled and secure in myself. And so now I'm in a better place to make better decisions and to think more clearly. So that is, in maybe not a tiny nutshell, but that is in a really big nutshell, that's secure and settled.